So not the Germans. What about Napoleon? Not Napoleon, okay. Not the Americans. Not the Ottomans. No, not the Ottomans. Okay. Okay, who? What? Wait, really? In history? Huh. I would not have guessed. No. March 14th, 1941. This war is a world war, and as such, all nations, even those neutral ones, are involved. But you can kind of see that some of those neutral nations are leaning pretty heavily towards one side or the other, and you really see that this week when the United States enacts Lend-Lease. I'm Indy Nidell. This is World War II. Last week, the British launched a commando raid in Norway. German submarine ace Gunther Prien met his fate at sea. The Nigerians advanced hundreds of kilometers in Italian Somaliland. British units began arriving in Greece, and German units in Bulgaria. I talked a bit about the Bulgarian situation last week, but how about Yugoslavia? Now, they had managed to avoid getting sucked into the ongoing Italo-Greek War. Last year, Hitler had actually tried to get Yugoslavian leaders to collaborate with him and with Italy. At a conference on November 28th with Yugoslavian Foreign Minister Aleksandar Cincar-Markovic, he said that he planned to intervene in the Balkans against Greece. And once Britain had been driven off, they may, redraw some borderland, and Yugoslavia might even get access to the Aegean through Salonika. But no further progress had been made after those talks. Then, during the planning for Operation Marita, the upcoming German invasion of Greece, German High Command repeatedly pointed out Yugoslavia's important geographic position, and that it would be great if they joined the Axis powers. See, the Belgrade-Salonika railway line between Yugoslavia and Greece would be absolutely essential for quick deployment during Marita, as well as quick redeployment to get the men ready for Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of the Soviet Union after that, so they really wanted to use it. Still, through February, Yugoslavia did not commit itself. Last week on the 4th, Prince Regent Paul had met Hitler, though, and was more favorable, but in line with Yugoslavia's neutrality, would not give Germany or the Axis any military support. Hitler said, "That's cool. If you get with the pact, you will not have to transport German soldiers across Yugoslavian territory." Okay, that is not an actual quote, but that is, in fact, what he meant, which is odd because his generals kind of required that to happen, and time is getting short. But Hitler did not want that one point sabotaging his attempts to get them to join the Axis. He also thought they could be convinced later on to transport German men and supplies across their rail system. But even in spite of that, things were not yet moving forward. The main obstacle seemed to be opposition to Italian interference in the Balkans. By now, that situation had become delicate enough that Italian leader Benito Mussolini was reinforcing his garrisons along the border with Yugoslavia. Well, that's where we stand at the moment, but something seems like it's going to have to give with the invasion of Greece just weeks away. Italian interference in the Balkans is reaching new levels this week, though. On the 9th, they launch a spring offensive against the Greeks between the Devoli and Vihose rivers. Benito Mussolini has even come to Albania to directly supervise things. And the Italians have 12 divisions, 11 infantry, and the 131st Armored. David Somerville describes it like so. There is little subtlety in the tactical plan, and much that is reminiscent of World War I. General Carlo Geloso leads the attack in the field, and it is a large-scale attack against a fairly narrow front, just 32 kilometers in the center of the Greek positions. The idea is to break through the Greek lines, recapture Klissura, and advance from there. They are faced by Greece's 2nd Corps, made up of the 17th, 5th, 1st, 15th, and 11th divisions. As a kickoff, over 100,000 Italian artillery shells are dropped on just a 6-kilometer front. However, repeated shelling and attacks, especially against the area overlooked by Mount Trebishina, do not dislodge the Greeks the 9th or the 10th. By the 14th, at the end of the week, Italian Chief of Staff Ugo Cavaliero is even trying to get Mussolini to call things off, thinking that they've failed. But this does not happen yet. Hill 731, at the foot of Trebishina, and just 20 kilometers north of Klissura, is a real focus point. It's initially defended by one battalion of the Greek 1st Division under Major Dimitrios Kaslas, and they've been ordered to hold their position at all costs. This they do until reinforcements can take over. Kaslas even saying that if someone tries to retreat, he will personally shoot and kill them. Now, I'll talk about this more next week, the offensive, but also this Battle of Hill 731 that some have referred to as the Verdun of the Greco-Italian War. One interesting side note here. The commander of the Greek Second Corps, Major General Georgios Bakos, was appointed to his command just back on the 5th, 4 days before the offensive began. Former Commander Papadopoulos, along with 2 generals of the First Corps, had strongly objected to a British expeditionary force coming to Greece. They think it will be too small to defend Greece, but large enough to give Germany an excuse to attack, a casus belli. They were dismissed from their commands, and then they retired the next day. Of course, we know that Germany is going to attack Greece anyhow, no matter how many British soldiers are there. And Germany is currently occupying Bulgaria to prepare for that. By the 9th, advanced units of the leading infantry divisions have arrived at the Greco-Bulgarian border. And a few days from now, 4 corps headquarters, 11.5 divisions, will be on Bulgarian land. One thing though, Bulgaria plans to declare Sofia an open city to spare it from any attacks by anyone. So the German units that go there are all service units. Field Marshal Wilhelm List establishes his 12th Army headquarters south of Sofia to direct his forces to their eventual assembly points along the Greek border. Now, there are 3 groups of troops that were to be sent into Bulgaria, and the first 2 groups are the ones now being sent. Okay, the Turkish ambassador to Berlin gives Adolf Hitler Turkish President Inonü's response to Hitler's message from last week. It refers to the German-Ottoman alliance in the Great War and expresses hope that friendly relations will continue between Turkey and Germany. So the 3rd group of German units is still in Romania, and because of Turkey's attitude, Hitler decides to keep 6 of those divisions in Romania to prepare for the invasion of the USSR and spare them all the marching they'd have to do to get to Greece. But no one, and I do mean no one, is moving as fast as the Nigerians. They are still advancing in Italian Somaliland, like lightning, at least the first part of the week. They've gone beyond the desert and take Dagabur the 10th. 2 things to point out about this incredible advance. Here in 1941, these elements of the Nigerian Brigade have pulled off the fastest military pursuit in history to this point. And also, the strength of their mobile columns varies with supply. Like, they take Dagabur with armored cars and 2 companies of the 2nd Nigeria Regiment. But everybody else is still 150 kilometers behind, right? But the Italian trucks haven't totally managed to evacuate the town, and a bunch of them are caught. However, after this, the Nigerians have to pause to be resupplied. They've covered 930 kilometers in under 10 days. That's a lot. And the British and Commonwealth forces will all be resupplied in the near future, it looks like. On the 11th, the Lend-Lease Act is signed into law by American President Franklin Roosevelt. It passed both the House and the Senate, but not without a few amendments. It now has a time limit until June 1943. And the president has the authority to transfer ships to other countries without congressional approval. A motion banning American warships from giving convoy protection to foreign ships was voted down, however. The president can now sell, transfer title to, exchange, lease, lend, or otherwise dispose of to any such government whose defense the president deems vital to the defense of the United States, any defense article. Basically, and one huge thing it is specifically geared towards, the British can now continue to order all sorts of war stuff from the Americans without worrying about not having cash. They can pay after the war. Britain is, though, producing more war material than the US is at the moment. Those supplies of food and oil will be useful pretty quickly. Although this is an extremely altruistic gesture, it's not entirely that. Britain has to keep paying cash for as long as that is possible. So that means that a lot of British assets in the United States will have to be sold for ready cash at well below market value. Britain is also not allowed to export anything that contains things supplied under Lend-Lease, nor can Britain export wholly produced British goods if the equivalent is supplied under Lend-Lease. It is possible that this could destroy what remains of British export trade. We will have to just wait and see. On the 12th, FDR asks for $7 billion in appropriations for Lend-Lease. This will be passed a couple weeks from now. That is around $120 billion in today's dollars. And that is the week. A renewed Italian assault in the Balkans, German armies marching around Bulgaria, the Nigerians advancing in East Africa, and the Americans setting up a new credit line for the British. Edward Stettinius is the head of the Lend-Lease administration, but Harry Hopkins is the real administrator. He is Roosevelt's top foreign policy advisor, so it is Roosevelt's foreign policy that will guide Lend-Lease. And Roosevelt just said months ago that the U.S. must be the arsenal of democracy. This is a big step away from strict neutrality. Yugoslavia is being pressured into stepping away from neutrality, and Germany is sure going to bring the USSR into the war directly. It grows and it grows and it grows, and for all the fighting that we've seen so far, this war might just still be in its infancy. If you would like to see how the internal situation in Yugoslavia developed in the 1930s, you can click right here for our Between Two Wars episode about that. Our patron of the week is Phil Toland. Thanks to Phil Toland and the rest of the Time Ghost Army, well, thanks to them, we can make content like this. I mean, that's it. That is what finances us. So join the army at patreon.com or timeghost.tv. Do not forget to subscribe and ring that bell. See you next time.